All right, squad. We're kicking it old school. This is like the OG crew. No offense to our guy Kirk, but this is where it all started. Bracken Crocker, Jack Bauer. What's up, fellas?
Long time no see, Rich. Heck of a trip to the desert.
Jack and I had some major bonding over the past week. We were gone a long time. That was some kind of trip that we had.
Yeah.
I want to hear about it. It's both of those times that I traveled over there stand out as big, like, dots on my timeline. They were impactful to me. So I'm excited to hear about your trips.
You were Abu Dhabi both times?
I was Dubai both times.
Oh, you were Dubai both times?
Yeah, I drove up to Abu Dhabi for a day.
Got it. So, yeah, we actually got out onto some trails. So I remember you talking about that like rocky kind of terrain.
Yeah.
So we got to see it. It's serious. It is really legit. Was your race in Dubai?
Yeah, I was in Hatta. It's on the far side. It's like a 3.5 hour drive through the desert to get to it. It's on the far side.
It's east then, I'm guessing?
Near Oman.
West? Yeah, we actually ran along the border fence to Oman.
Oh, then that was probably where you guys went.
We were probably pretty close to where that was. Because Dubai is all the way west in the UAE. It's
Not
like
all
northwest. It's not? Like, what's that water?
Abu Dhabi is further west of there.
Yeah, but it's south.
It's true. Yeah, it's on an angle, but
it's southwest.
We're showing our American geography skills right here.
But it's as far west as you can go in the UAE in that.
Yeah.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so it might technically be west.
We know what you're talking about.
It's all the way west. So we may have gotten some of that terrain that you were in. It wasn't as far as 3 hours. It was like an hour and a half.
Yeah, we were further. I'm sure they have multiple border crossings to Oman, but we actually ran across like the actual road that at the gate we had to cross that road. Or like security forces set up there, and the course went right across the road, like 50 feet from the border gate. It was wild.
Wow. That is wild.
At one point, we were running within like 3 feet, and you could touch the border fence.
So you want to know a funny story? So that sounds like cross country almost, because you almost crossed the country. So when I was in 8th grade and I was doing baseball and soccer and stuff still, they had cross country, and my mom was like, "Oh yeah, you like running? You should probably cross country." And we lived in Massachusetts and on like the north side of it, and I genuinely thought it meant you just basically went to like the state line and just crossed over into the different states, or that maybe there would be a meet sometime where we'd cross into Canada because we were close enough. That's what I thought.
Actually, cross country.
So humble
that
beginnings.
Would explain that 28-minute 5K.
Yeah, because
we weren't yourself.
Racing to a different state gets that.
I had a long way to go to Canada. Yeah.
So Oman's kind of funny, right?
Yeah,
it's
I would agree, Bracken. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead, Birch. I was just gonna say I would definitely classify this as a big dot on the radar of like life events. It was a very memorable week overall.
I got the map up. I'm going to share it with you guys just so we can, cross our T's.
Got this map technology.
Yeah, might as well take a look.
Yeah, so, Abu Dhabi's southwest. So yeah.
Abu Dhabi's southwest. It's definitely further west, but you see how Dubai is all the way west that you can go in the UAE in that. So we were up.
See Hatta.
Yeah.
Hatta's over here.
That's where we went.
Oh, wow. It looks amazing.
And they have, that's a lake up there. They have a reservoir. It's literally green like that. It's wild. We had, I think, 6 swims.
6 swims? That's got to be a record. And this picture looks like it's green at water.
We swam across that.
The whole thing? Was it at like a West Virginia-esque swim?
A choke point, probably. I probably spent a total of 6 to 10 minutes in the water there between all the swims.
What kind of swim stroke
That's West
do you
Virginia.
do? What kind of swim stroke is your preferred method in a Spartan race?
Front crawl.
Front crawl?
Yeah.
I think the back frog is the way to go.
Breaststroke.
So we were up here. We were like, this is also Oman.
Oman is like discontinuous. There's
it's like the UP
a portion. I can't. Yeah.
It's up here.
Yeah, it's like the Upper Peninsula. You're right.
Mm-hmm. So we were way up here. So when you went 3 hours straight southeast, further east, we went northeast a little bit. So we were like up in this area, and this was a border that we were at, but still, like, you can see, like, this is all kind of mountainous in here.
Mm-hmm.
Gnarly
It is
stuff.
gnarly. It's jagged and rough, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. It was like super hot. That's what I was like.
Hot.
That's
Very,
why they call
very
it
hot.
hot.
Bracken, did you catch any of these Gov games?
I watched a little bit.
Could you follow it in any type of logical manner?
No, not the way I was consuming it.
No, like, the live stream wasn't very put together or succinct in any way. Like, there was no way of, like, showing what the competition really was.
Yeah. Was it what you expected
They
to
did
get
focus
into?
on one heat. Kinda. Yeah. I'd say it kind of met expectations on events. I thought there would be a little bit more puzzles. Because that's kind of what had been a theme in the past, but just big, high production level obstacles that required working together and getting through, like, sequentially one after the other. And sometimes you can't get it unless your other teammates there to, like, push you or grab you and stuff. That's kind of what we thought, and it pretty much followed that exact logic pattern.
Why weren't you guys dominant? And I mean that not rudely. Hey, why didn't you make finals? What was the difference between your team and Leon's team? What did they have that you didn't?
So most of the team, so this was essentially Team Ninja Warrior is kind of how I was describing it to people. There wasn't a ton of output. They were all shorter events. Like, they were 10 minutes time capped, but some of them took 2 minutes. Some of them took 6, and, like, some other ones we didn't finish. And the ones that we didn't finish were more strategy based, like just having thinking on the fly how to get through things and kind of thinking outside the box, because it was impossible to prepare. So I think people who had a little bit more like ninja parkour athletes were a little bit better suited for this particular event.
Okay.
So the ones that we struggled on, we completed, and just for the listener, I'll just back up. So there were 28 teams, four teams per heat. So you basically had the 7 obstacles, and you just kind of rotated around. So we started on obstacle A, then we'd go to B. The group after us would then go to A, and you just kind of go in a circle in groups of 4. Team had 5 people going, and there were 3 stages within each obstacle, total 10-minute time cap. And some parts of it took, much less time. Others took longer to complete. And as soon as you hit the first buzzer, which may have been like that first one where we threw the rope and pulled down the doors, as soon as you got through those, you basically got 5 points for completing the first portion of it. And then the second portion, which was like solve a maze where you had like a pulley system. As soon as you got through that and went up the next set of steps, you got 5 more points. And then as soon as you got on the third part, which was a couple of laches on a floating board, for instance, you got 5 more points. And even though it was only a couple seconds later, if you hit the final buzzer, you got 5 final points. So every single round was worth 20 points. And then the faster you did it, you got bonus points for time completion, essentially. So every 100 seconds under 10 minutes, you got a full extra point. So they basically took your seconds divided by 100 to do that. So you could earn 22, 23 points in a round if you were like flawless every round. And as Rich mentioned, just the teamwork. Denmark was more used to like the balance, and the stuff we got that we didn't complete. We completed 4 of 7 total. I think San Diego, which was Hunter, Cole Schwartz, Matt Kemps, and a few other OCR names. I think they did 5 or 6 that they got
cheated on
fully,
one.
But there were also a couple bonus buzzers. Yeah, that's why I said 5, because they really didn't get it through that one. And then there were a couple bonus buzzers that got you a few, like 5 more points and stuff. But what we struggled on, would crush like the first 2 on a couple of them, and then get to the third one, and it was just like, how are we going to get through this? Like it was like balance oriented for one of them, where you had this wobbly platform and you had maybe 6 inches on each side that you had to fit around a barrier. But if it tipped too far of an angle off horizontal, a buzzer would go off and you had to all start over again. And like we got there with 6-7 minutes to get through this, but we couldn't finish it. And that kind of was one of them. Another one had these harnesses. I sat it out, so Rich, you can go over what that one was, but it just seemed impossible if you were doing it the proper way, right?
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a little confusing trying to talk about what all these events kind of are. But yeah, like
without visuals.
So like, I feel like we didn't do poorly, but there's no way of telling how other teams did. You couldn't really adjust your strategy based on what anyone else did. They didn't give us a scorecard to show us how the final scores came about. And things didn't really necessarily add up. So they may have had penalties here or there that they didn't really talk to us about. So I thought we did well, but just like not well enough. And there's nothing we could have really done. I don't think.
We went to bed that night. I think we went to bed that night thinking we were going to be 3rd through 5th, roughly. Like if we missed it, we were going to miss it by 1 spot because the top 4 made the finals on Sunday. So you had a couple days between for qualifying and then making the finals. And then we woke up the next day, and that was a rough one to find out we finished 7th with some interesting scoring. We were like, how did this? No, they told us like noon the next day, and yeah, we handled
on
it
Instagram
really well.
Stories. They just didn't really. Yeah. So, and in terms of like an event, the spectacle of it was really awesome, and it was super fun. And I thought we were pretty prepared based on everything, but just not necessarily knowing like it could be one person making a decision on how to kind of get through something a little bit different than and just like being a little bit lucky, a little bit skilled. So like it was more like a game show.
So you didn't physically fail at anything.
No, there was one event that was a little bit physical that we didn't complete. That was more of just like the
Gov Games, the pegboard thing.
Yeah, that was more of a strategy snafu as well. Just like a sequencing. We just had the wrong sequence to put in.
We basically thought we'd get so the thing, it was the third part of it. You had this like 15-foot tall wall, and they gave you these clips that were almost like a pegboard, but you rotate them. They're either like an I or an H, and they'll lock in if you're horizontal because now you have more surface area to keep you in place as you're leaning back against the wall. And so it's kind of like a Z wall, and you get around the corner, and then you need to go up this 15-foot wall. And we took a little bit longer than expected because we were going after the bonus buzzer because there were only a few of them throughout. So we're like, this is going to be worth something. But because it took longer to go after it, all of us were on the wall for like 4 or 5 minutes, just hanging there, losing our grip. And it was just pretty taxing at that point. And then Ryland didn't get the bonus buzzer, and VJ's been hanging on for like 6.5 minutes or something like that. Towards the end, he hits the buzzer, and then he just his hand grazed the water, unfortunately, as he tried getting up, and we just ran out of time to finish this. So he would have made it up if his hand didn't hit the water. He would have got it like 10 seconds later, but that was one that cost us 10 points, and we missed the finals by like 11 or 12. So that one kind of was pretty heartbreaking to see that happen, but we kind of screwed up the strategy on that as a group.
It was just short stuff. I mean, it was a game show. It was like we did carnival games for 2 hours.
Bracken, it was way more professional. Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge though. Like this was definitely skill based. And as Rich mentioned, they were just 10-minute caps, so you couldn't really show off fitness. In previous years, they had events like as a group, you have 10 minutes to go max distance carrying something, or a 10-minute max distance bike ride. They didn't have anything like that this year, which we were banking on because that would have been a really good event for us as a team. But yeah, it was honestly super fun overall, and a lot of the teams we expected to do well did well, but other teams it was like, wow, I'm shocked that they finished so far back, or they couldn't finish the finals and stuff. So a lot of surprises.
So if you had to go back next week for the exact same competition, would you bring the same squad, or looking around, would you try to build it from a different skill set? Without throwing anyone under the bus.
Yeah, I think our squad was well enough versed in it.
Very balanced.
The free runners, the parkour, the ninja athletes, the skill level is probably pretty low for them. And even for OCR athletes, like everything we could do pretty well in terms of the actual obstacles. It was just more strategy, thinking on the fly, never doing something like this before. We're all individual sport athletes, you know, but there wasn't necessarily turmoil on the team. The team gelled pretty well. They're just like, we just didn't know how to do some stuff.
Yeah. I'm just now noticing those are skulls on this wallpaper behind you.
Little skulls, man. And there's flowers.
Those.
Can you see the little floral in there too?
Whose decision was that?
Amy found it. I always like the skull imagery.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Can you see the flowers in there too? Little
Well, when I only saw flowers. When I
Yeah.
first
Oh, really?
tuned
Interesting. And then we're
That's
gonna
what I thought it was.
Yeah. We're going to wait, which one?
Is this like the nursery?
This is the office, man. And I got some other stuff we're gonna hang up. It's gonna be looking good. I'm gonna get some maybe I don't think shoes, maybe some spikes.
I put more spikes up this week.
Did you see the Battle Bunker events announced? Bracken, you're in for Battle Bunker? Come on. Yes. Why not? Say yes.
What? Yes.
Yeah. All right. You're in.
But probably now.
Why wouldn't you?
I have an MRI on Thursday.
Oh,
and
no.
That'll tell me what I'm doing moving forward here. Yeah.
Is it lower leg related?
It is. It is. So it could be nothing. It could be something. I'm not getting into it yet.
Okay.
But all plans for the year are on hold right now.
Well, shoot, because Battle Bunker is looking kind of cool, and I had a chance to talk to Hunter a little bit out there. Just for the record, we beat Hunter's team. They had a funny response to the final scores, and they were like, "Oh yeah," because they still were saying that they beat us, even though the final scores were that we beat them by quite a bit, and that's a great strategy. I'm going to deploy that from now on. When the final results come out, I'm just going to be like, "No, but I beat you. I know what the results say, but I beat you." Yeah. So that's really solid.
I won the national series. Yeah.
I think it's pretty smart.
You remember Chael Sonnen used to do that with Anderson Silva?
Mm-mm.
He fought Anderson Silva for a title and beat him for 4 3/4 rounds. Oh, he beat him up for 4 3/4 rounds and got caught in a triangle choke in the last minute and tapped out. And for years just said, "No, I didn't lose. I never tapped. I didn't tap. I don't know what you're seeing. I did not lose. I beat him. I did not tap." And just stuck to that. Didn't matter how many angles they showed of his hand tapping. He didn't lose. He beat him.
I like it. I think did they rematch it?
They did. And then that one he finished him.
Oh, he beat it. He beat Silva.
Am I thinking correctly? He hit him with like a flying knee to the chest or something, Jack. We're talking a decade ago at this point, almost.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Just deny the results. Yeah.
I like it. I think it's smart. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Hunter's
from now on.
Team, they did well, but there were a couple times when they definitely skirted the rules with how we were instructed with like how to, what you can and can't do. And I think it just depended on like what your lane judge was saying. We were definitely asking for permission way too much, and a lot of other teams just kind of did it and hope no one noticed. And I think that was part of our downfall.
Is this interesting, the Gov Games, Bracken? Is this something that anybody should really care about, you think?
In what way?
I guess in terms of entertainment or like following the sport. Or I guess that's what I mean. Like, why should anyone care about this?
I don't know if they should. This is like when a CrossFitter went to Broken Skull Ranch, or when, I don't know, like when they used to do that All Stars or whatever it's called, where Bo Jackson would compete against like Greg Louganis
or Kobayashi against the Bear.
Yeah, right? It's cool. It's cool entertainment, but it has no bearing on anyone's sports that came to it. And you don't leave there, it seems like, having found anything out about whose sport is best. It's just like a standalone one-off event that's cool that it exists, and it gives people a platform and a chance to win money. But outside of that, I don't think it matters. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, it doesn't impact anything else outside of itself. It's a self-contained ecosystem.
Agreed. Like, it's not going to be
the way I see it.
How do you see it, Jack? How do you see your internet today? That's what I'm curious of. What do we got?
What if we make Jack host?
My internet is definitely, honestly, that could make things different. But yeah, I was just gonna say that we haven't had like something on TV for a long time in OCR. Like, when did Broken Skull happen? That was like 2017. It shut down, and then Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge a couple years before that. I don't think most OCR players really pay attention to Ninja Warrior besides like the finals every once in a while. Like I don't watch it anymore. So I think it was cool like having something to have a variety of athletes to cheer on, and you don't get to see like Team Denmark. Well, you do see Denmark because they come to the US, but like how the Czechs did, how Team Australia did. We had like legit Kenyan runners there. Big variety. You had all 6 continents represented. So it was cool just seeing everything, but it's definitely like a one-off production. That's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But I don't know. I think that it gave people something to watch, and all that we've kind of been is negative for the most part, because it's like, how did Spartan screw up the series? How's Savage Ops come in? Like, what's the prize money issues with all the different brands? So like, it gave us something cool to talk about for once. But yeah, it's just kind of a blip on the radar in the grand scheme of things, I think.
Yeah. Agreed. It's not very fun though. It was just for kind of the athletes. Oh yeah, and the idea of the parkour, free running, ninja type athletes. I think a lot of the people there were very well regarded in their specific avenue. Like I would like look up random people who we would talk to. They would have like 200,000 Instagram followers, and not that that's like really a case for anything, but there were a lot of like high athletes represented in this thing. But it's just like it really was just a thing for the athletes to make money. Other than that, and just for the UAE to be like, come look at how great it is here. And other than that, I don't really get it. I don't think I quite understand.
Who put this on? What was
the government games?
Crown Prince of Dubai. No. It was Sheikh Hamdan. He's like the son of the actual person in charge of
He
Dubai.
started X Dubai as well, I believe.
Okay.
He's big into fitness, and they just channel millions into it each year to do it.
He's like 40 or late 30s, and he's competed in the Gov Games in the past. He's a very fit politician essentially, and he likes it, and he's got a lot of money to blow, and he wanted to put on a good show for everybody.
Yeah. And
he had a very good staff like helping prepare. I thought that like volunteers and just how they treated everybody, they did a fantastic job. I've never felt like that in an event before.
Yeah, but other than that, not that interesting. I think we can kind of move on.
Are they going to make a show about it post?
I don't think so.
They haven't in past years.
Yeah, I don't know. But this is the first year that they had like the cities, quote unquote, division where it was more international. But I don't know. I don't think they would care to make money on it. I don't think it's a thing that they
have enough. They have enough.
Yeah. Well, they didn't charge for spectators. That never happens or at least Spartan, they're charging like $15-20 from what I remember. But I was talking with a lot of people because I went to the finals since I was already on that part of town on Sunday. And I was just talking with random people in the audience who weren't.
Dude, you got to do something about this. This is not good today, Jack.
Kind of promote when you just ran into the grocery store going.
You gotta figure something out. I think it's just rough. We didn't catch any of that.
Mm-mm.
All right, I'll sign on after you guys talk. I'll be back.
Could you see this being something that comes out in a Netflix documentary, like the fittest type deal, fittest on earth? Like just they make a show about like a 2-hour show about these games, or is it not?
I don't even know what they would like cover. It seems like it would just be it would be more like how did you watch the High Rocks documentary this past year?
No.
And it was much more like a commercial for High Rocks than talking about the sport in any way.
Okay.
And if they were to do anything, that's what it would be. It would just be like, here's the reason. It would be like Visit Dubai kind of sponsored stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't see it.
Okay. Would you go back?
Yeah, I would definitely go back. It was so fun. It was so fun. And we weren't that far out. Like we were pretty close to competing in the final. Interesting point. The Czechs made the final and Richard Heineck was on the team. And so you could have 7 total people on your team, but only 5 could compete. We had 6. So we had like one alternate each time through. They didn't have Richard Heineck in the final. Believe that. And I guess that's just what is a testament to like what this thing was. It really wasn't OCR in any way, that they looked at one of the best OCR athletes in the world and were like, you're probably not going to be able to help us in this one particular event.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And it had running in it. Lindsay's team didn't put Lindsay in the final. She sat out the final.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're not going to do Battle Bunker? I want to talk about Battle Bunker. Did you see
I would do, I mean, the lifting I would not do well on. I'm not a good lifter.
What's your strict press?
I don't know.
For a 3-rep, 135.
I think that would be really pushing it.
Okay. I think a lot of us are going to kind of be in that range.
I would say I could safely do 115. Probably guarantee I could push for 125 and 35, like in a gym surrounded by people, maybe.
Your back squat's coming along though.
Is it?
It wasn't it?
Like 2 years ago when I prepped for High Rocks. I would guess I could back squat. It's 3-rep?
3-rep.
315.
That'd be plenty.
Maybe 305.
I'm kind of thinking in that range, 305. Like just I haven't been doing too much of the back squat, but it's also a 1600 meter or a mile for time, which is going to be. And he did that with OCR Stars a couple years ago, and that final one
runs fast.
No one runs that fast. I mean, Nick Mask was 422 or 420. Did you see Nick ran a 419 indoor?
No.
On a track, official, not a Nick Riker style 419.
Not a Nick Riker.
Not a Nick Riker 419. Actually on the track, doing some work in that.
So. I ran into Matt Gross at High Rocks. He was the stud from our conference. He's a 358 miler.
And a sick rower, right?
Yeah, now he is. But he's 42 now, I think. Anyways, we have this called the Wisco Mile. It's at Wisconsin Lutheran High School. And every year, the week after state track for high school, they host an all-comers night of miles. So it starts with elementary, then they do middle school, then they do high school, open, invite, elite, and then they do community, open, masters, then they do elite, and then they do a pro mile. And each year they try to get someone to break. Anyway, there's like 11 or 12 mile races run that night or more maybe. And I think they added a elite 5K or elite high school 5K for people trying to run a PR after track season. But he said we should go do the mile this year. So he and I were talking about that, but that might be out the window as well.
Shoot. That'd have been a great time to get some dragonflies? Not dragonflies. Is that what they're calling them?
Yeah, they have dragonflies.
Dragonflies. Yeah. That'd be just up that spike collection.
That's right.
Probably spike it up. And then the final workout is a 30, 20, 10 dumbbell thrusters with 50 pounds and burpees over dumbbells, which is going to be a burner spice.
So with anything Hunter does, it always comes down to how he decides to score things. What does the mile represent? Does running fast even matter compared to your total score for the lifting and for your 30, 20, 10? So it's like, in theory, it's 2/3 strength and 1/3 running.
Yeah, that burpee workout, it's pretty engine based.
Yeah, but it's heavy enough that it like takes a VJ out, I would assume. Although he's getting stronger. Like a Nick, for example, could run 419, but like those thrusters, he probably can't rep those very well, I would assume.
Right. Yeah. So I would imagine it's going to be the same, like wherever you score, like if you win the mile, you get 30th in the lift and you get 5th in the Metcon, you get 36 points, lowest total.
If that's the style, then yeah, that's very fair.
I'm thinking that's what it is. And then you move on to like a regional, and then from a regional you go to the Battle Bunker, which last year was kind of more like a Go Ruck, like invitation type of thing, but now he's actually doing like a CrossFit style qualifier to get through.
Yeah, the Hybercon games.
Do you know
how they're called?
Yeah.
Do you know how many people are making regionals?
I believe that there is. Let me look it up.
Let's score out our theoretical scores between the three of us here.
Okay.
Let's play it safe. Give me 295 for back squat for 3 reps.
Okay.
And 125 strict press.
Okay.
Say, when is this?
It's a 3 rep on strict press.
3 rep on strict press, 3 rep on
first week of
back
April.
squat. Yeah, I got about a month.
428 in a mile.
Nice. That'd be strong.
You think you got 428 right now?
Well,
In a month.
BK can just rip
Isn't that
that
fast?
out. Under 7 minutes.
Isn't that what you did? Like you were like 430, I thought, in
427.
last competition, right? Okay, so you're basically there. Yeah.
I think I've ran sub 430 like 8 times post collegiately. I generally
easy work.
If it was a 5K, throw me out the window. But with 1 month of prep, I can get sub 430. That's
More than 7, unless you're doing a 7-minute 5K.
Just spin some 200s. BK's ready.
2s, some 6s, and let's roll.
I like it.
So then I don't know how we'd score the Metcon.
I was trying to think of the time that it would take to do that. It's
30, 20, 10 with thrusters and burpee lateral overs.
60 each.
60 each. We don't know if it's facing or lateral. I'm gonna guess it's.
What do you mean 60 each?
60 total reps.
30 plus 6 plus 20
gotcha,
plus 10. That's 60.
It's 30, 30, 20, 20, 10, 10. That's miserable. And what's the weight on the thrusters?
You're gonna see
50.
some breaks.
30 reps of
per arm
on thrusters.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
Shoulder burner. That's gonna be tough.
I could see this taking 5+ minutes for just the thrusters alone, and then the burpees 4 seconds each. Like, especially when you're gassed, you won't take breaks on the burpees, but thrusters, people are gonna break those up. This is gonna be like a 11-12 minute workout at least.
It's 30, 30, 20, 20, 10, 10, right? Back and forth.
Yeah.
Yes. There was a CrossFit workout that they've done twice in the open that was, I think 24, 21, 18, 15, et cetera, down the 3 with barbell thrusters at 95 and bar facing burpees. And that took me under 11 minutes. And I was in good CrossFit shape at the time. I was like 10 something, and like real good athletes were under 10. So that was 80 some reps. That was like 83 reps or whatever. I forget exactly. 84.
That's barbell though.
It's barbell, which is going to be a little bit easier. But
for some people,
yeah,
it's easier for people who use barbells. The dumbbells, a little heavier, will be easier for people who are just going to body it up.
True.
And like get to this position.
If you have bad front rack position, the stabilization is a little bit harder with dumbbells. And
you'll have that left arm start.
Yeah.
Like driving your chest into like getting that press off of your chest on the barbell, like it's a surface space to jump it off of. You don't have if you're not in a good position on your dumbbells.
Dumbbells are gonna be bad. The people who are just gonna rest it here and pop up and down are gonna do fine. The people who are starting here,
yeah.
The runners, it's gonna be
runners are gonna have a hard time for sure. And I mean, he did thrusters in the Fork in the Road in OCR Stars season 2.
He loves thrusters.
I like thrusters too. I'm with it.
It's the full movement body. Yeah. Or full body movement.
It's the full movement body.
Yeah. That's how we were talking.
That's jet lag right
there. Yeah.
Yeah. We were in Germany yesterday. It was great. I was dropping donkas. Everybody was getting one. It was helpful to me. Donka. People were
Rich
like, thank you
is the smoothest. Like, I'm in a new country. I'm going to pick up on like one word, drop it here and there, just blend in. He was smooth on the plane.
Going over there.
Couple other, he did a couple other ones. Yeah,
some Guten Tag. People like that.
Yeah.
But this is kind of a fun event, and like the way that 21 men and women move from the open, they're calling it pipeline, into the regional events. So all you got to get is top 21 in your region. So that could be top 50, say.
So
even if
I have a better chance getting in than any of you guys.
Because I'm
in the Midwest.
I don't know where they're drawing the line.
Oh yeah,
does it matter?
Maybe they're not having a Midwest region. They're having an East and a West.
You don't want to be in this Colorado.
You gotta have a Midwest.
Come on, No,
there's two. It's East and West.
Yeah, people aren't that interested in giving Midwest a region. You're going to get the disrespect like
that's
you always
not
get the
regions,
disrespect.
Man.
It is what would we call those, Jack? Just 2 of them.
Latitudes.
Latitudes. How about that? 2 latitudinal competitions.
Well, isn't latitude this way? That'd be longitudes.
2 longitudinal
You're right.
competitions.
Yes, I'm jet lagged. I corrected a couple people on the trip about that, so I'm not. My brain's not working.
He knows,
Listen,
he knows the right answer.
I'm going to take any opportunity to correct Jack Bauer, and I will take him at 40% capacity. I'm okay with that.
You got to seize that. You got to seize that.
Heck yeah.
And then it looks like I think it's 8 come out of the region. It doesn't really say here.
How long? What is the start to finish timeline?
It's pretty long. It's starting in April 2nd through 8th is those 3 workouts that we just talked about. Regionals is June. Looks like they're doing on 3 separate weekends because I think there is also there's a UK region. Hunter's big out there.
17th.
Builder. People are drinking Builder out there. Have you guys had Builder?
No.
I like it. I'm into it.
No,
so in theory,
it's good.
You can put in not in theory, you can put a lot of work in if you get through regionals. Put a lot of work in.
Then the HybridCon games are not until October 28th and 29th. So like late. So this is like
too long of a schedule to keep people's interest.
I mean,
it's pretty long.
It's long. Yeah.
It's pretty, but I like
2
that
months
it's
longer than the CrossFit games. Basically.
But I like that we don't. Well, yeah, CrossFit's pretty condensed, right? Well, CrossFit goes from February to August.
We're right now through August. So that's 6 months. And this is like April to October. That's 6 months. I mean, it's kind of similar, to be honest, throwing a competition in the middle.
And it's not conflicting with High Rocks World Championships. It's about a month before DECA World Championships. So like it fits okay, I would say. So I like that they kind of did that. And it's not around the Spartan Championships either, really.
Anytime you have a 6-month window, though, then things go wrong.
Like injuries?
Injuries, yeah.
People need to get MRIs.
Yeah.
That happens.
So if they're only putting 8 through, will they have replacements?
Maybe. I would imagine. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. I think it's just
is it 8 from each region, so 24 would make it.
It's not on the site, but that's what I thought I heard. And that's a good amount. If it's like a multiple day event.
That makes sense because if it's not divisible by 3, so you'd have to take 2 from somewhere else and 3. So I think it's probably to give out false information. So
yes. That's what we'll do here.
Who do you think who's best designed for this?
I think me.
High Rocks.
Yeah. High Rocks or DECA. If he's going to do running only events, I think it's going to be helpful to be really fast. I think it's going to be like OCR Stars.
Yeah. He's very good at designing vacuum style tests.
Mm-hmm.
Very good at that.
And I'm into it.
Yeah.
I like it. Just like training.
Yeah. Yeah. Which came to mind for sure. Yeah. I think Meg Jacoby is probably going to be Alondra Greenlee. I don't know what her mile will be, but she'll probably
Lauren
crush these thrusters.
What was Lauren's 10K she just ran at altitude?
Oh, she does a ton of those in training anyway. So like 30, she averaged 557.
That's just impressive.
It's sub 37
for
her,
for a hybrid athlete.
She's going to be tough. So I would imagine she's back. She did the open
36:55.
It's pretty fast. All right. So we'll make sure we're covering Battle Bunker as it goes along. We're going to be involved. BK, we hope you can be there. Let's talk a little bit about Savage stuff. So this year is kind of an opening for Savage. Well, a couple things happened this past week. Spartan announced their prize money for the national series. So something that, we've been speculating for a while, like what we think it's going to be, how it's going to affect the turnout, who's going to show up. We talk about this a lot with Ryan and Lindsay. It's like, will they show up? It's like, well, if the payday's right, they'll be there. So they announced it, and they've drastically cut the money. So they're paying out through top 3 at national series events, where they cut that down from 10, and they cut the prize money for the top 3 about half, I think. where in previous years it was 3K. Was it 1,500 for second place in a national series, or was it 1,200?
12. That was stadium race. 1,200 was somewhere in there. But yeah, 3,000 sounds right. Maybe 12, 8, 6, 4, 2, something like that. That sounds about right.
And that was a reduction from what it used to be as well.
For the national series?
Yeah, going back, it was 3-2-1 originally.
For per race.
It was pre-national series, but each round of it changing its name. It used to be Navy Federal Races.
U.S. Championship. Yeah.
U.S. National Series, and then the North American. Each time it's gone down. And that's what Aaron Newell called out with Dave Watson on that call or whatever. And Watson replied, like, then how are we giving away more money than ever? And I was like, well, you aren't. That's the point of all this. You're not giving away. You can say you are, but you're not.
The actual dollars are not different.
No, they are, but they're lower. So yeah, it was really to me, it was kind of terrifying. And I don't mean that like, oh, clickbait, he's terrified. Like, it's terrifying for the health of the sport to see this big new push. So again, I ask, why are there laser pistols? If like, well, where's the saving grace? Like, where's the lifeline? It doesn't seem to be here. This is terrifying that in their big new look at us spectacle that no one asked for, they're going to offer less. It's just Kirk said it when he announced. He said, I just think the sport's dead.
So what are the numbers now? It's
3,000 bucks per gender.
Okay, so it's 1,500 for a win, 1,000 for second, and 500 for third, which is a drastic reduction. You think it? Yeah. So from a Spartans perspective, what does that mean for their end? Is that they're divesting from the athletes themselves, or is it just that financially that they're in trouble?
Yeah, I think they're deeper in trouble than any of us wanted to admit. Because we're used to them always pulling money out. They'll be fine. And then they put on something big. Well, they're putting on something big, but not in a big spectacle, not in a big style.
And that the 3K now, because that's another thing too. It's like this 3K is not going to make them any money.
No.
Because they're not charging for it necessarily. Where in the regular events, they have this full event to pull from. So they're putting on something new without really adding any type of way to get any revenue from it.
This is the thing that we kind of talked about at depth in the past, whereas if they had kept everything the same and then said, we are adding in this side thing, we're not going to put a ton of money towards it, but it's going to be a test run. It might track us to the Olympics, but we're going to add this in. People would be like, that's pretty cool. Oh, there's $500 for third. I'm already there that weekend. I'll try it. Maybe it'll help cover my hotel and rental car. But when you do this big, like, get ready, what's behind here? Whew, here's what we have. And you're like, what? That's what it is. It not only did you make a big flourish about something small, but you removed something that everyone liked in order to do this big production for something not big. It's doubly depressing. I don't have any positive takes on it right now.
Yeah. Are we surprised?
Well, it's a little.
Go ahead, Jack. What do you got?
I was just gonna say our 1,500, 1,500. So that's 3,000 per gender that they're gonna have. And I went on the website. You get 45 slots that they were talking about, 3 heats of 15 to compete. And on the website, before taxes and everything else, it says tickets from $64. If we more taxes and all the mandatory insurance and stuff like that, if you do $64 times the 45 people, that's $28.80. That's essentially we're just paying for our own prize money. That's what it comes out to.
So they're not 80 per gender. It comes out to.
Yeah, I was doing 3,000 per gender, so double it. It's the same deal.
So they're not investing at all when you look at it from that perspective.
Yeah,
which they've sold this idea to companies, which means they're still borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Like their new thing is covering operating costs, and that's the that's what Kirk, I think, was referring to when he said this might just be the death of Spartan, because like now you're just really spreading the funds thin. Everyone who did the event said they had a blast, but that's how it always goes.
Yeah.
If you get people to an event like Gov Games or Spartan Ultimate Team Challenge or the Spartan Combine, 3 things that didn't do anything for anyone other than the people that were there had a lot of fun. That's the commonality, is that everyone has a blast at these things. They said it was super intense. It blew you out. It was a blast. It was super like back and forth. But people on the outside watching it said it looked dumb. Like the race videos look slow and uninspiring. And that's what we're going to get out of this. It's, yeah, people are going to love doing it, but only 45 people get to do it. So like you said, it can't bring money in, and it's not going to bring viewership, no matter how much they say this is a new, short, exciting course we can sell to the masses. It won't. It just can't.
I think we do need to give it a chance for like how it's going to look, to be fair. And I get it.
Yeah,
like
but we
it
know
didn't
how
look
it'll
super
look.
fast, but I think
We saw it.
the
We saw it in the
1,000-meter
Spartan
rounds
games.
are going to look cool. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but what sport looks better in
That's true,
prelims
but
than
yeah, there were
finals?
4, not 15.
No one's ever like watched the AFC divisional round because the Super Bowl is going to suck.
Right.
No, it's just, which sometimes happens.
Yeah.
You get Bills, Chiefs, and those kind of things are pretty awesome. But if the best thing they can sell about it is the prelims, maybe that's what you sell as the final.
Right. Why make it a 3K? Why not just make it 1,000?
The 3K in Spartan Games was uninspiring to watch.
They also did a bad job of showing it to us.
They did, but there were
And it was
massive
also
time
like
gaps and no moves being made after the first lap.
Yeah, that's true.
And they also made everybody do like a half marathon ruck and all this other stuff beforehand. So it wasn't you weren't going to be explosive.
But you still
there.
had VJ, Kent, Atkins, Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good field.
No doubt.
So I know what you're saying. And Jack, I will give it a chance. And I'll still even do it.
Yeah.
But in terms of health of the sport, it was a big failing grade for me for how they revealed things.
Yeah. There's
Even
totally
the fact
reason
that
to
they
be
had to
skeptical.
open it up, that they had to open up the test run for free to try even get anyone to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine if back in the day they said we're changing the obstacles for the North American Elite Series or the U.S. National Series, and we'd like you to do a test run of it? They would have had to shut their website down. There would have been such amount of people trying to get in and try the new stuff, and now they had to tempt people to come try it.
In with the two of you, your historical minds, other sports, has there, and I know we're probably so much closer to this than we are to any other sport that really has ever existed, but has there been any type of like massive dip to then recover and kind of flourish beyond this? Because like right now in it, and with, you know, Kirk, lots of people like Kirk and others are saying things like, oh, this is it, this is dead, this is their last second. And I hear this all the time, like this is a last ditch attempt, and this attempt looks pretty poor. But is there a chance to rally? Has this happened from what you guys can think off the top of your head?
I know, I'll just do a Gov Games example. I talked with some athletes over in Asia who were competing in that, and OCR is like on the rise over there. We're, 12, 13 years in on the US side. So we're kind of seeing like, all right, it already hit its peak from what we can tell. And we don't really pay attention to what's going on in other parts of the world. I know that European athletes are pretty frustrated in Spartan over there as well. They have more brands to choose from, it seems. We kind of have Spartan, or if you're competitive, Spartan or Savage at this point. But I do know that it's not dying like in other parts. So that at least is probably good for the company but I do agree. There's like the dip, and it's kind of hard to ignore.
I think the big mistake, if we look back, the big mistake was Spartan trying to put everyone else out of business rather than using the rising tide to create a league. Every niche sport that turns into anything seems to have a league or a circuit that becomes big. And Spartan had their own circuit, but they killed it off by stopping production of it. They stopped showing it on TV, and then they stopped live streaming, and then they stopped the league. If you look at anything like, I mean, small time racing leagues, motor leagues, or if you look at X Games or anything like that, they put on circuits and leagues, and they have stops along the way. ITU triathlon, that was never going to be big, and then suddenly it was big. You have to have stops along the way that are consistent and build a storyline throughout a season, and it has to be something that people can watch, because if people can't watch it, sponsors don't come in.
Right.
And Spartan actively pushed, they're like playing whack-a-mole with all the other companies to keep them down, rather than saying, let's see how many we can have up at the same time and create these guaranteed bankable stops every year. Diamond League track. Why does that work? It works because they run there every year, and they create a self-sustaining narrative that you're going to run fast here, and these companies are going to be able to sell sponsorship every time because people tune in. And I think that was the biggest miss in our sport, is that we didn't create a stable league or circuit that could be counted upon year after year. Because now it doesn't matter if Asia's big or Europe's big, because there's no way to capitalize on it. Like, who is capitalizing off the rising Asia tide right now? The sport could die while Asia gets big, and it won't help the sport. Yeah. So there's no circuit that was established. Spartan killed their own circuit.
Do you guys know? Do you know about the American Track League? I think that's what it's called. That tried coming out like in the past couple of years, where they'll have like a group of people from Atlanta and I think Philadelphia. There were maybe 8 teams and stuff, and they kind of had these dual meets and stuff. But like OCR is very similar to running, realistically, and like that's kind of our closest comparison with the trail running and road racing and stuff like that. But did you guys know any results from the American Track League? Is running and endurance just not cool enough to make a league even viable, no matter what we do? Because like if track hasn't made it, and they've clearly got a bigger audience, they're the most popular sport that people participate in high school and stuff, like everyone knows about track, but it just can't get popular. Is it just never going to work out because it's endurance?
Well, track has made it. No, it's in the Olympics. It has professionals. It has the Diamond League. It has college, indoor, outdoor nationals, high school. It has.
We care about that because we're in that community.
But it exists.
My mom doesn't know anything about it.
It exists.
It still exists, right? And it's been sustained.
But what they tried doing with that track league was to create fast-moving, really intriguing track meets. I don't know if you remember the setup of it. It was, I think, mixed gender relays. It was different. They didn't have the full track program. They only had sample events. And I think what they forgot is even track fans don't tune in to watch junky track meets. They tune in to watch athletes. And I think they just had a bad idea. They had a bad idea. They thought it was kind of like listening to Hobie talk, where this is all you have to do. You have to set up an arena style obstacle course, and you just have to do this. And it just never brought anyone in. That's how I felt listening to the people try to start that track league. Was, I just don't think your idea is good. Like, track's here. The world loves it. It's athletics everywhere else. The world loves athletics. Just we don't have a palatable form for the US.
So we're not sure if there's precedent for it to.
Do you know about the Grid League also?
Oh yeah, I was the only Grid League fan, I believe. I paid the monthly. They had. Really? I sure did.
I think it's in Florida, right?
Now it's just in Florida, but it started as the National Pro Grid League, NPGL. Yeah. Now I think it's just the Florida Grid League, and it was a lot of the CrossFit Games athletes did go and do the Grid League because they paid them salary. It wasn't like you paid your winnings, but I don't know if it just wasn't embraced by the community. It was like if like, say, for example, because we're going to talk about Savage as well. If the community looked at Savage Race, the Spartan Race community looked at Savage Race as a lesser product, which it isn't. It's basically the same. But just for instance, if they looked at it and everyone was like, no, that's kind of dumb. Like, we do the Spartan thing. Everything else is not as cool. That's kind of what happened with CrossFit to Grid. Even though it was the same, it was basically the same thing. But I just don't know if they had enough money to kind of pay for everybody and try to get people on. That was So that was like before subscription models were like all you had. So it was kind of like a novel idea. It was like when FlowTrack tried to put out their subscription model, kind of. Have any of you guys played for that?
Never.
You're like the biggest track fan out there.
I'm so against putting things behind a paywall like that.
Subscription.
And it's hard to sustain that way unless you're bundled up with something else. Like right now, like it could be on Peacock and PGL, and that could be maybe a better way for it to exist. But back then it was pay, and I think it was like $20 a month for it. I did it. I watched it. It was great.
Yeah. I really don't like the flow model. You take a niche sport and then make people pay for it. Like, you can't grow that.
No.
You want to say, hey, tune into the race this weekend. It's going to cost you. Right. Absolutely not.
I've never paid for it either. And like, yeah, we're like the biggest type of track fans out there.
Yeah.
So I think it was just it was a bad time for Grid League to exist. Anyway, would you have a point for it, Jack?
No, I was just thinking of another like obscure kind of lower level thing. Like, we're never going to be on the same tier as football and stuff, but that was like a hybrid functional fitness type league that existed at one point, and I just wasn't sure where it went.
Yeah, and just shrunk back down to Florida. And maybe we'll expand again because like now they're doing it more kind of on grassroots, and if people like want to participate, they know where to go for it.
Yeah, there seems to be a tried and true method for growing a sport. And it's that it has to be something that you can entice people in with the accessible spectacle of the sport. Like, it's so wild, but I could also do it, my version of it. You have to have that, which OCR has. And then you have to have a professional racing version of it. You have to have a pro competitive version. You have to have that so that people will watch it, because no one will watch the masses go through, but they'll watch a competition format of it. And then you have to push that like crazy and establish a season of some sort or a circuit so that there's guaranteed races or competitions that people tune into and sponsors throw money at. And then you use that to grow the sport. And watching that, what people tuning in and watching it and thinking, I've got to try that, it just self-replenishes the ranks. And the sport itself can exist independent of the community, but they're also tied together at the hip. That seems to be how every successful sport grows, is you grow a rabid fan base, use that to get all their friends into it, and then you put out a televised, self-sustaining ecosystem. It's how every single sport that people also do in the community works.
Mm.
And OCR has cut off the televised portion of that. And as a result, there are no eyes on it. You get one big growth opportunity when you first start. That's free. If you get eyes on it, you are free to grow then. From then on, you have to get the eyes onto it. And you don't get a second big growth.
Is it too much? Could that be part of the issue? I can't help but to think about CrossFit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the amount of televised opportunities that they have, it's maybe 3 a year. Honestly, it's like, you watch Rogue Invitational, you watch Wadapalooza, maybe some other ones along, maybe the Dubai one. It's not CrossFit affiliated anymore, but maybe it's another fitness competition. And then it's like the games. It's like
Mm-hmm.
3 to 4, and in OCR, it's like 5 to 8 just Spartan throughout the season, and then every other little race that happens with hybrid, with Savage. Is it just like, could that be an issue as well? Like maybe it's too much to watch. Maybe there just needs to be a couple that we could really focus in on so that to really drive the interest.
What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, when I was on the plane,
For forever.
I'm not sure if you saw me watching it, but
for a bazillion years,
yeah,
never got off of that thing.
Yeah,
Goodness,
20-something hours. Yeah, but they had the Fittest on Earth documentary on there, and there are like 20, 30 things that you could choose from, and that was one of them. And it's like, people clearly will watch a well put together production like that. They could choose anything to put on, their limited selection of, like, transatlantic flights, and they just happen to have CrossFit. Like, if there's a really good documentary or something to cater to the masses that'll really get people going for 60, 90 minutes, like, that could be something that would be a really good investment. I know Matt B. Davis did that for World's Toughest Mudder this year, did a really good job on that. I think maybe you just get a few more things like that. What was it? The Scott Keneally one earlier that he did in the early days of, I'm forgetting the name of it, but
Rise of the Summerfest.
Stuff like that. Rise of Summerfest, yeah. But that might be like one of the only ways that we can really just appeal to more people at this point. Just kind of force it in front of their eyes.
I kind of think the opposite. I think that sports like the Olympics, or not that that's a sport, but events that are events rather than individual pieces, CrossFit Games, Olympics, the more moving pieces there are, the more it relies on spectacle and novelty, and the less number of individual events you can have, because it has to be exciting and new every time you watch it. Because otherwise, if you've seen the same thing over and over, like you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. So you have sports like that or events like that. I think they can only happen a little bit. But then you look at sports that have a routine to it, a script to it, a repeatable aspect, like football or basketball or baseball. It's the same game every time, but there's nuances throughout, and you follow individuals and the storylines throughout a season. Or Grand Prix, you could have Formula One or NASCAR, any of those. They hit a million stops along the year, but each course is slightly different. And then the storyline of who's doing well throughout the season, and how does that automobile work on this course versus that course, or things like track, where there's races throughout the year, or triathlon, where they'll have a bunch of different stops. Those all work being on even weekly. But it's about a really good, like, you don't have to put on a good production or storyline to CrossFit Games or the Olympics. You just tune in and watch people do incredible things. And by the end of the games, you feel like you know everyone, and then you wait 4 years and get excited again. But with team sports and racing, it is mandatory that they build in opportunities to track people throughout the year and show the nuances from course to course, because you're seeing the same thing each time, and people get obsessed with that. I think that's the model OCR can still follow, but you have to identify, what are we actually televising? Not, we have a crappy Savage stream this week, Spartan may or may not next week. This week, Hyrox is doing Instagram only. Next time, they're going to try to do it through OCR report. People have to know before the season starts. They have to be able to print off a schedule and know, I'm tuning in here, 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 and here. And it is a televised or live stream, whatever it's going to be. And it's going to all be watchable. And I'm going to watch each time. To me, we haven't gotten to the point where we have to swing for the fences on a few big productions a year. I think we just need consistent attempts to get it in front of people's faces in a palatable manner.
So you think the scheduling piece is important?
So important. If you can't release a schedule with everything everyone needs to know,
OCR report listed their schedule.
It starts.
OCR report started to do that this year,
and that's huge. But a Spartan circuit, season, if you can't release all of it and where to tune in and how, so people can screenshot it or put it on their fridge and they know all year this is it. If you can't do that, your sport cannot be watched.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, because even the World Championships last year at Spartan was like, I think we knew the day before that it was happening.
Yeah.
That's cool that they're doing that.
See OCR report. They probably have 20 or so events on there.
Is it the full year? Yeah, it looks like
they have their dates ahead of time. One of them happened so far. The Knoxville, full 2023 schedule. So just go on their page. They've got when they're going to do it. They've got DecaFit, Savage, Spartan.
So that's half
OCR
of it.
World. So
The downside is that it's disjointed between brands and offerings. And it's disjointed between turnout. And I don't think there's any functional sport that gets by on random showing ups of the best people. Every single sport that is healthy gets the vast majority of their most recognized faces and talented individuals at every competition. If they sit out one, it's a big deal. And that's the thing that
everyone's doing it.
By like OCR report putting that out is great, but how many good people are going to be at each one of those? And it's less about them being good and more being about a name that people remember. When they used to have the NBC coverage, everyone knew Rose Wetzel. She was never in contention for a world championship at Spartan Worlds, but it didn't matter, right? Everyone knew who she was. She was super famous off it. Everyone knew Matt Novakovic. He was never in contention for a world title. Didn't matter. No one like Cody Moat wasn't a superstar, but he won 2 world championships. It's because he wasn't at any of these races in between. No one knew who he was outside of it. So it's about getting people there consistently, whether or not they're the best. The public doesn't know. They just have to be shown over and over. This is who you root for.
Yeah. You just gave me an idea, Bracken, just talking about like the triathlon, like the ITU series and stuff like that. And Rich, I don't know what your interview schedules are. I think it would be really interesting if you guys found a way to get someone who's involved in one of those kind of obscure sports that sort of made it and just interview them, ask them to like pick apart OCR and be like, what can we do? Like talk with someone who's actually been helping develop some of that stuff. I think really good interviews.
That would be interesting.
They'll be like, make them run faster. Make it look cooler. Like, what else? Anything else you could offer?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, that's all.
OCR, I will say that OCR has had some of the best races I've ever watched. Some of these battles that you have when you have multiple people together going through an OCR course is as compelling as any other form of racing I've ever watched. In Blue Mountain, we saw some things like Lars and Atkins going back and forth. We've had some Asheville battles. We've had Tahoe battles. The things you watch at these good races, even Dubai with Atkins and Sergey this past year, it's as compelling as anything you can watch. Which means that it is marketable.
The buildup that they could have had with Lindsay and Emma all year. Yeah. That would have been, they could have built that storyline the entire season. Every single race, they were at each other's throat right there.
Could have helped if Emma beat her once, but
it doesn't even have to, though.
It helps.
It helps, but they don't. Every other sport has that. Like no one beat the Patriots for a while. It didn't matter. They hype up the next person. No one beat Floyd Mayweather ever. But it was always they found a way to hype up the next person. This is the next one up. This is going to be the one. Even if it was someone he had beat before. Well, now he made this change and Floyd's older and they switched camps and now this is the reason. And now he's training with Floyd's old coach and sparring partner. This is the reason. And every time it sells out. No one's developing a show with a narrative for OCR right now. No one has a reason to even tune in and watch.
All right.
Unless you're already a fan.
Who's John Jones got next?
He has Stipe.
That's what they're going to. Oh, that's right. They did mention Stipe. Is Ngannou just not going to do? He's just not UFC anymore?
No, he left. They wouldn't work with him on his contract. And so he left.
Is he like Bellator or is he just like done?
He's currently unsigned, I think.
He's just beating people up, just like intimidating people walking around, just flinching at him.
I think he needed surgery anyway. I think that was part of it. They wanted him to come back on a certain timetable.
Maybe he'll do power slap.
Oh, geez, that's the dumbest thing ever.
What would you rather watch?
Not that.
Savage series streaming, broken up, unbelievably, can't see what's going on. Power slap.
Power slap just is the epitome of stupid.
It is.
Next week we're covering power slap.
Like how can you be like the reigning champ? You're gonna like break all your teeth.
Someone's gonna die.
I don't even understand the concept of it because the purpose of any martial art is to work your offense and your defense. It's to avoid damage for the most part. The only time you intentionally take damage is if you can do so in order to inflict further damage back. They took defense out of it. It's the only sport where there's no defense outside of hunting, probably.
It would just be like it's like the dunk contest, essentially. Right? It's like go and dunk. Now you go dunk.
Yeah.
Massive violence.
The best person on earth is guaranteed to take the same amount of damage as the worst person in the sport. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like there's no skill defensively involved.
People like just seeing other people get slapped. It comes up on like Instagram, World Star. It's just so people slapping other people. People like it.
Are they sponsoring it? World Star?
Isn't that payout for power slap? Isn't that only like $5,000 or something if like you win the championship? It's like I don't know, worse than Gov games.
Dental bills would be higher than Wow.
I think most of the people come in there not worried about their dental bills.
I'm aware. Yeah. Unreal.
So does Savage do they have an opportunity here? Or is it just going to be more of the same?
I don't think they have an opportunity for a different reason than Spartan doesn't have an opportunity. Spartan has a product they can sell, but they won't put it out there right now. They're not focused on that. Savage is willing to try to air it, but they don't have a product that is the most palatable, because any race that turns into a blowout isn't interesting anymore unless a world record's about to be set. Any running race you've ever watched, or cycling or triathlon or anything, all you want is a good battle or a world record. Well, records don't exist in OCR. So all we want is compelling battles, and they have a product that's it's 50-50 if people are even going to finish or not. And that's not something. Now, it's great for the sport of OCR. We love it. Some people do. Many people do. It's great for the athletes. It's not great for trying to get people in, because it looks defeating and not interesting to watch 15 people sitting at a rig waiting. That's not something you can sell to a network. So I don't think from a viewership standpoint, they have an opportunity. I think they have an opportunity to try to scoop up all the participants from Spartan. But as much as I love Savage, they are not if I had to tune in to watch any major race series of the last 10 years, Savage would be further down my list, unless there was a big contingent of studs coming into the race.
So you think it's a product problem?
A product in terms of palatability for viewership, yes. Right. I think the product is perfect for OCR. Mm-hmm. But their problem with OCR is their venues are not nearly as compelling as Spartans. So on the viewership end, it's not as viewable. And on the participant end, you're scaling down venue to go get their obstacles.
All right.
Does your point about like no one wants to see someone on a rig for 30 minutes or whatever at the end, like we all fight for mandatory obstacle completion and that's the better method, but it seems like we're kind of contradicting ourselves when be watchable? Like,
I think there's the participant and then there's the product for television. And I think participation, they love mandical obstacles, so why bother fighting against that? But for a televised product, I don't see any sport on earth that the whole team sits in the penalty box and you just wait.
Yeah, I agree. That's just like the participants within OCR who just aren't very good at running, who want it to be mandatory completion. That's just like,
so they should have that opportunity.
Totally.
You can't put that out to the public.
Yeah. Do you think Savage cares to like, or do you think they're like, okay, the Spartan is dropping the bag, let's grab it?
They should.
But
I think that's their mentality.
You think that they are thinking that way?
They have to be, right? I mean, if you're in their shoes,
is it something they want? Like, even so, this all started. They announced a couple of new obstacles. One of them is an obstacle that historically people would like. It's swinging. It's a little bit different. There's like a ladder. Shoots and ladders is what it's called. Where they go like glide down something, jump on a ladder, glide down something else. Looks fun. Mm-hmm. But then there's two other ones that don't look fun, look dumb, like visually look super silly. And they got backlash, right? Like they're like, this is backlash from athletes who are going to participate at the higher level. And all Spartan gets is scrutinized. They never get complimented. No one ever likes anything that they do. And a lot of it comes from the complaining pro quote unquote athletes that want things that serve them better. Do you think Savage wants this headache? Because they're about to get it. They're going to get a huge dose of what would give you a huge dose of headache other than alcohol? What's something that gives you a headache?
Cocaine.
Do they want? Savage is about to just blast some rails here.
Cocaine bear.
They're going to get a huge dose of something. Like, so do you think that's something you want? Do you think they're going to be like, you know what? We just want to make our obstacles and have them have sexual innuendos for the names. And that's what we like to do here. We don't really care to have to please these athletes who are entitled.
Well, I think if it's not broken, why fix it? Because they kind of have just stayed in the same venues and they're still around. So they have something that works. I think that's kind of like they made a big changed when they actually put on a series last year, but I don't think that it was as well attended. Like as the year went on, it definitely kind of lost some of that mojo. And we are giving crap to Spartan for cutting their prize money. Didn't Savage get rid of it in their normal events, and now it's only in the series? So that kind of like got swept under the rug a little bit there as well. So it's just an
They expanded
OCR
their
problem,
series,
not really a Savage problem.
Yeah, this is kind of
number of events. Yeah,
like when you're the little brother company, you can exist off of everyone else's dissatisfaction with your big jerk older brother who's rich and goes to his Ivy League school or whatever. Like you can live that role. But if you ever want to get outside of his shadow, you have to become something else. Like you can be the grunge band in your garage fighting against the man, but then you sign a recording label and something has to change because those type of things don't scale.
Gotta sell records.
Yeah. So Savage is at that point right now. You're right, Rich, where like, can you be just that, kind of dirty obstacle names and hit all your little local things? And that's great. Yeah, you can be that, but you can't be national or worldwide that way.
Right.
You have to start expanding the same way other people did, but try to avoid their pitfalls. But they've never had a negative reaction to an Instagram post in the past. I don't think not like this.
I don't think people cared as much. And now I think
now
people care more.
They've qualified for the next level of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe they don't want to be that Spartan because Spartan's Instagram posts now, it's like 80-20 training with hate versus support.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more. They post the laser pistol. What do you think of it? And you've got like, you can tell who their shills on there are like, oh, so cool. And you click on when they're a Spartan Street ambassador or whatever it is.
Right.
Everyone's always like, this is dumb. Savage never had that. You're like, you are the best. We need more of you. And
You're
then
not
people
like Spartan. Yeah.
People are like, all right, we're going to go all in here and realize, oh, I don't like the change you made. And Savage they've never had that before. But yeah, you can't be the underdog and the favorite at the same time. So it's a different skill set required.
From what we know about that company and these companies in general that are event companies, they're not sporting. They're not sports. They're not trying to be a professional sport. Generally is what they're in this for. They're making events to make money, to whatever their ethos is, to get people off the couch, whatever Savage is. I don't really know. Do you think they're just going to be like, do you think they will want to grow into this? Or is it just like, hey, you guys don't move the needle for us anyway and what our goals are? Why should we get this scrutiny? Or will they just be like, hey, we'll listen. We'll make a sport that we think is appropriate, or maybe we won't listen and we'll just keep driving to the things that we believe in. What do we think about that? Any ideas?
I don't know. Hard to say. It's interesting because they've been insulated. Spartan gets trashed for their heavy carries. Just trashed for it. They don't do doubles anymore. They don't go up and down the Black Diamond ski slope anymore. Savage has a toothpick.
Literally.
For a carry. And they have forever, and no one complains about it. Ever. They've been totally insulated from this. And so you would think if they wanted to make the Spartan crowd happy, they'd say, hey, come get the gnarliest carries on the planet. They haven't tried to. So maybe they really don't want that. Maybe they don't want that drama. They don't want that position because they know what's waiting out there.
But if they make the rigs easier, then I bet that's going to come down and hammer. You even heard that a little bit last year with the races that were part of the series didn't have the super gnarly rigs that they have. And it's like, there's chatter about that. It's like, oh, because this is televised, they don't want to show these lashaying to a cheese board to like, to anything, like they kind of took those things out. At least that's what it appeared or what people were speculating toward.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they'll get some criticism. Or when they have, what is the blocks, the duck walk thing? What are they calling that?
You pick up the brick behind you basically, and
I want to look up the name.
It's different.
We were talking about that, and it was like if Deca made a new zone, Bracken, if Deca made a new zone that was as silly looking as this duck walk thing, the zone 11, they're replacing another zone. What's an exercise they could put in for that would be the equivalent of this silliness?
don't know. What is? I don't even have a.
We said like you come in, you do 20 inchworms.
It could be that, or like Turkish get-ups with 5-pound weights.
Turkish get-ups would be a really silly one too. Like imagine tuning in to a
but
Savage
for form,
race.
not for speed. You have to complete 10-second Turkish get-ups.
You get judged like gymnastics, where it's like you get a score. You have to meet a score after the 10 to move on. But yeah, imagine tuning in and seeing people roll around in that like Tootsie Roll thing, like getting completely like stuck in it, rolling one way, then rolling the other. You're like, I'm gonna see what else is on YouTube.
Okay, so I think what this highlights, same thing with Spartan, same thing. We were talking about someone else did something like this. Companies that roll out big new things without doing some sort of test group, some sort of industry sample panel where they talk to it. And we always joke, they're like, hey, they have a panel pretty representative of the sport on this podcast, minus females young and old and minorities. Other than that, like we check every box.
Basically, we have the mid-30s crew.
Right?
Yeah.
But they have people who are willing to talk about these things and they don't use them. And this is what happens. And they could do things like that in the past and it doesn't matter, but now they've got a bit more spotlight. But our sport seems, and I think you highlighted it by saying they're an event company. Spartan is I don't know what they are company.
They're all of it.
They started by being this nasty endurance gritty thing, and then they went corporate, and now they're
wrestling,
lost.
Combat. What else?
Yeah, but they're not being run like companies. I think to save OCR, it might take a killing off of OCR. It might take a big company like Iron Man or someone to come in and say, listen, we're starting an OCR circuit. You guys can be a part of it or you can get out of here, but we're going to do it and we're going to build it like a company. And no one in the sport right now is going to like it. But we got you 4 million people off the couch by doing it crappily. We're going to get 4 million new people in the next 2 years to do it. And then we're going to get 10 to 12 more in the next decade after that. So like get on board or don't. And it might like slash and burn, get everyone out of the sport. Atkins might hate it. You might hate it. I might hate it. You know, Rose may hate it. All the OGs may hate it, but it's new life for the sport in some other lover's arms.
Well, couldn't this be what the 3K format is with World Obstacle? Like,
yeah,
could this potentially be what we're doing?
I don't know if I emphasized enough early on that it would be a successful, well-run company will come and do this with money.
Oh, got it.
But none of these companies are run top to bottom, structured like a successful company. If you had to start from scratch and say, hey, we're gonna do a startup, but according to this day and age style of making sure we have people filling roles and building outwardly correctly, none of these companies are structured to meet that. So I don't think it's any shock that they make disjointed decisions, but someone has to, right? Someone has to just decide we're not going to be part of this cesspool of decision-making anymore.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, OCR has been around for a while. So these few who have survived, like when did Savage begin? 2013, roughly 2012. And then Tough Mudder was like 2010, Spartan 2010, OCR Worlds 2014, like a decade plus or so. So they're not just like total failures at that point. But yeah, I definitely sense all the frustration we've been talking about and stuff. I don't think that would go over well with the community or idea, as even though that it would bring probably good change and keep the sport growing rather than just kind of stagnating. I think that Rich, you kind of mentioned it, once World Obstacle and Modern Pentathlon got involved, that did not go over well. No one likes these lasers. So once you bring in the decisions, even if they're, I don't know, I just feel like it would over like the.
Well, until he comes back, I'm going to pick up the lasers. Rich, at this point, I would be more excited to take part in or watch team endurance laser tag with obstacles on a course. Long course laser tag. That would be every bit as fun as a 3K course.
I played some laser tag in Dubai. That shit is fun too.
Yeah.
With OCR athletes. It was like Matt Kempson, Hunter was out there, just a pew, 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 pew. Yeah, I think that we're on to something with that. That was really fun.
The healthiest our sport has ever been, when it was being talked about as the fastest growing sport in the world, and when it had deals and all that, Spartan was structured like a real company. Their board of directors met regularly. Their CEO and founder was in those meetings and in the office and at events. They were structured like a legit company, and they were bringing in money. And then things started to shift in terms of shiny objects and breakdown in the corporate chain and people being promoted to fill in roles that they shouldn't have been. But for a little bit there, at their peak, they were a legit structured company. And that is what is needed to move this sport forward. You need a legit structure to take over. And it can't be made up of people who are filling roles. It really can't. It's why World OCR won't work. Because the person at the top is a power-seeking person who has no history in our sport, nor in business. They're just looking for a seat at the Olympic Committee. And people underneath are being filled in with other people willing to do jobs or seeking some role of influence or athletes. And as much as I like most of these people, we are not equipped to save the sport. We are equipped to be specific little role players that are used for their layers of expertise in and amongst a real corporate structure. So until that is either reformed in Spartan, develops in Savage, somehow comes to fruition in World OCR, or a third party comes in and just cleans house, the sport can't actually grow. It just can't work.
It does kind of seem that way. It almost seems like
pill to swallow.
Yeah, I would probably be more excited if a company did come in and buy Spartan. Be like, oh, okay, this because the changes that have happened have not been in a positive direction. So if it sells, at least there is the chance that something positive could come out of it. Because right now it just seems like everything that happens is a net negative. When was the last positive change you feel like they've made? That you could be like, oh, okay, great. That seems like that there is progress here.
Let's just backtrack the changes that have happened and see. So 3K, laser pistols, positive or negative?
To be seen, to be determined. Laser pistols could be all that. I played laser tag. Bracken said laser tag might be fun. I'm buying stock in lasers.
No, you're not. In lasers, yes.
Lasers.
Rich just got practice playing laser tag.
I was not good at laser tag, however.
You need that. You need that kid Kempson was talking about. It was just like a menace to everybody.
Dude was like hiding in the walls. He was unbelievable. It was like frustrating to play. Dude knew all the spots.
So I want to talk about the logic of the laser pistol first.
Yeah.
So we have laser pistol in 3K now. So because of that, they will now make OCR the fourth discipline of pentathlon in the Olympics, maybe. And then we're in
6 years.
So now we're seen by the Olympics, and they're going to follow that tried and true method of, if you're part of a sport that already exists, we're going to give you your own Olympic event.
Maybe.
Is there precedent?
That's never
I was going to say, is there precedent?
So that's never happened. So that's not like a guaranteed pathway. So we get in as the fifth or the fourth because they had five and they combined it down to laser run, combined two into one, I believe. So now there's only four in pentathlon, unless I'm wrong. So it's modern
quadrathlon.
So we're the fourth,
and
we're there as a like a spectacle sport until they choose their next one, which really replaces us. But because we know everyone in the committee now we have our foot in the door. But no one wants a failed attempt to get, like, I don't understand what the laser pistol does for the Olympic chances. Does anyone have like a better argument than pentathlon uses us to modernize and we don't get our own sport because it's going to be a short course version of there, and the only way we get into the Olympics is our athletes. VJ has to learn to swim better and fence in order to be able to do the sport he's already world class at. Like, is there a route?
I believe in our guy. He could fence. He's long.
He is a good swimmer.
The point is there a route? Has anyone heard one piece of of logic for how this laser pistol helps the sport get to the Olympic. People keep saying it's the Olympic route, but no, it gets the laser pistol into the Olympics in the hands of the pentathletes. It gets OCR into the Olympics in the hands of the pentathletes. But how does it help this sport get to the Olympics? Has anyone heard anything?
So this would be like, now we're going to have the rings or, balance beam as its own individual gymnastics event. That's kind of how you're seeing it. It's like, that's never happened. It just kind of stays as gymnastics, and you have your all around individual events, or all around consisting of individual events.
It'd be like if they put pole vault in actually,
well,
I don't know.
The decathlon kind of.
I don't understand it.
It doesn't like there's no precedent for that. And maybe this is the way of.
No, we're aware of, yeah.
And I have not heard anything. No, Brecken. I don't think anyone's given a good explanation for that.
Because when there is, they lead with that. We're going to do this so that this happens so that we get to the Olympics. But all we keep being told is the laser pistol is going to get us to the Olympics.
Is us just being part of pentathlon? Do you think that's just going to be something for the people who are pushing so hard for this to be in the Olympics to hang their hat on? Is that I think that boils down to that a lot here, is like the people who are in charge wanting to have something to point at in their legacy at the end of the day. And this is just going to get them to kind of close. Like, look what we started. Look where it ended up. Now let's go do something else.
Yeah, they're company risers. They just want to be on Olympic committees.
Yeah,
that's their path to retirement. That's their path to speaking gigs. They're the ones that save modern pentathlon.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get anything for bringing a new sport in, and they're not trying to bring a new sport in.
Yeah, it's just a vehicle for an individual to ride into, and the rest of the sport is,
Listen, every time this happens in any other venue of business, people will tell you, if you're not having to pay to be a part of this, you are the product. Like, you're being sold. If people are sending you something, hey, test this out, it'll be great, it's because they're going to sell you. Right? You're helping them. You're giving them free promotion. If they're coming on and saying, listen, I need to get X number of hours out of you, and we're going to give you % of the company, and here's your role, you're now a part of it. Or if they're giving you seed money to start your own company, they think they can make money off you, but they believe in your product. If they're just saying, take this and be a part of it and give out some codes, they're selling you. You're doing their marketing for you. And the same thing is happening with this. There's been no talk of any sort of benefit for us that's tangible, but we can see the very, very tangible pieces for modern pentathlon and the people like Ian Adamson, which is job security and sports security. But there's been nothing other than theoretical. The closest I've heard is Kevin Donahue told me, listen, when you get in there through the short course, and then they're going to work on that 100-meter short course with the ninjas and get ninja in, then people are aware of your sport. And then the conversation can be had. Well, this is so interesting. I'd love to see a long course version of this. That's the closest I've heard. And that was from someone who was not doing anything other than announcing at World FISO or whatever that thing is called. So no one up top even said those words. That's the only compelling argument I've ever heard. And that is a 3-step removal from the process we heard originally. So I just believe we're the product being used, and it doesn't benefit us in any way.
Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate truth about it. Yeah.
Well, it's depressing, but maybe it's good that everyone can just be on the same page. Like, listen, we get it. We're not going to the Olympics. They're using us, whatever. Let's just cut bait and focus on create one powerful business structure. And if we can't create that, create the thing that the powerful business structure should create with their powerful business structure, which is an OCR league. You can have the business that creates the league with all their money, or you can create a league that's so marketable that a business will buy it. Those are the only two ways into this thing. And if we can't do the first, then we have to do the second, which is create a league that's so good that someone is compelled to buy it. And now the sport is on new blood.
That OCR league, or the sponsorship part that you were talking about for an OCR league, that's kind of like the Tour de France, where you had, I'm just using the US Postal Service because everyone can relate to that, but you have a ton of other teams from around the world representing that team. OCR already has big sponsorship dollars in there. Like at every race, you see 15 or 20 of them. They're handing out stuff, and it would be so easy. Just like there were talks a few years ago where I'm pretty sure you might have been involved in part of the conversation, Brock, and like get a team Chipotle, if they're one of the sponsors, and they select, there are 8 sponsors or something. You select teams of 4 or 5, and you run a cross country style. They're supporting you all year. Now you've got all the big athletes. They're getting paid some sponsorship money. They're not complaining as much. It's not coming out of Spartan's pocket because they're getting it directly from the company. And you have team rooting interest throughout the year. It's like that should have been what they went after a few years ago. And it was already laid out in a discussion to have, but it just never ended up resolving in anything.
Yeah, it was Magida, Amelia Boone, myself, and Joe DI were working on that product. And Joe was on his way out of the company.
Yeah, we talked about it at the Spartan Combine, those guys.
It was his last ditch effort to save the sport or take it to the next generation. And when he was axed, it was shelved. But that type of thing is doable because you can do it with a good marketing team. You can do it without seed money. Your money can come from the sponsors. So the only way to do it without a big business behind you is to outsource the cost by selling spots of sponsorship. And early on, it's going to be small. We were talking originally teams of 8-ish, 8 to 10, with each person getting $25,000 in salary, plus another 15, or what was it? It'll have been another $25,000 of team travel to spread evenly throughout the year. We're not going to be able to pull in that money anymore. That was at its peak. You can't anymore. But
now it's $3,000 for a podium.
Can you bring in enough just to get people to the races and have
that would be enough, right? Like just like
right.
Fund people to get places, let alone paying salaries.
Yeah. And make it like the World Marathon Majors. Hit the OCR major courses, the ones that people are going to go to, the ones that are going to be filmable, the ones are going to put on spectacle races, and do it. And create a league so solid, a circuit, maybe not a league. League, people balk at the idea of a league. Create a circuit so solid that you're guaranteed to be able to put every event on without a hitch, and you're going to be able to sell that concept to sponsors. I think there are people out there who are smarter than me at this kind of thing, but that's my swing for the fences and get something palatable for companies out there who will in turn put enough money into it to be able to show it to the public. And then they come back out and start doing. How many people do we have in our country right now, Jack?
Like 340 million or so.
340 million. At our peak, they were claiming 4 million unique. I believe they were claiming 4 million unique participants. Okay. So we have 336 people who have not tried, 336 million people who are still ripe for the picking. It means that we haven't ruined the market. We've just stopped growing the one small sector of the market we captured. Another swing at this can still get another 4 million people. And I know this is going to be received the same way my comments on Matt's podcast were, which is, if it's so easy, just get money by making phone calls.
Yeah.
I'm willing to be a part of that. I am. But you're going to need races to be willing to be a part of it too, because that's the only way to put it on is to put it on with the races already hosting those sites. And the only way Spartan will be a part of that is if they are desperate enough for an influx of cash, they will put away their old holdups to the side and say, all right, let's try this. And the only saving grace of their announcement of slashing the prize money and all that is that they're getting really damn close to that point where they need a Hail Mary. They're getting close.
I like this idea too with it because it would bring in aspire. It would be something for newer athletes to aspire to be on one of these teams. And that's something else. Like the health of the sport is also within the athletes themselves, and that is going to start to dwindle and fade away. And we're going to see when this 3K. It's going to be hard to draft these teams, Jack. I know we're going to have 45 people on each side for this 3K series, but who's going to go?
Well, and we don't necessarily need to make this team racing either, because a lot of people will argue that there's no successful team racing sport in the world other than Tour de France, and that happens once a year.
You wouldn't consider cross country successful in on the world level?
I think you sell sponsorship, and it happens once a year. I'm talking something with a season. I don't think anything is team endurance based. But if you look at motorsports, they all like there's the new team is the new track house team. They have what, 2 or 3 drivers for them. They don't get team scoring. They just run for the same stable.
Right.
You know, you have all the people who run for Adidas. They're not out there pack running. You don't get the team Adidas versus team Nike. Now you can play that route if you think that helps these sponsors do that, but you can also just have 7 people that run for Garmin and 7 that run for Home Depot and 6 that run for Chipotle and 2 that run for Reebok because Reebok decides they're bet. You know, whatever it is.
Why is
it doesn't
it not
need to be team?
Why is it not successful to watch team racing? Because by nature of the way races are like watched and visualized, it's the front, because team racing takes a lot. Like a lot happens in the middle, and it's just hard to follow.
Yeah.
Like, is that basically it? Just the nature of the sport? Because it seems like it would be something that would be interesting, like watching a team win and following the team by their record and things. I don't know.
Well, team sports are the most popular sports out there. So yeah, you'd think it would just carry over to that. Teams are just a bunch of individuals doing the same thing. And OCRs, we're all, of course, doing the same thing at the end of the day. It should be popular.
But when you watch cross country, not in person, you can kind of get to stops and be like, okay, like this is happening. But even when you watch the cross country national championships, NCAA championships,
1,000-meter splits,
you really don't know what happens until the very end. You just like do the math at the end.
Team racing is individual racing that gets scored different after you cross the finish line, which means there's no storyline during, because it is impossible to show everyone.
Unless it's full on relay.
Relays are different, but those tend to be add-ons in any sport.
Yes. Right.
So I agree with you. It should be palatable. I just don't see that anyone's figured out a way to show it well yet.
No.
And the longer the race is, the more impossible it is to keep
World Relay Championship. Yeah.
World what?
Yeah. World Relay Championship. They had it in like the Bahamas a few years ago, and they might have done it multiple times. And that's when they introduced the mixed gender 4x4, and the whole thing, it was only 4x1, 4x2, 4x4, 4x8. Just a few variations. And I think they had one where it was like 4x110 hurdles where they ran in opposite directions 2 teams at a time. Like it was wild.
Hurdle shuttles.
The hurdle shuttles.
Yeah, hurdles, exactly. Yeah. But I don't think too many people are even aware that existed. And if track and field can't pull it off, and they have their own established fans, it's probably going to be difficult to pull off.
Yeah. I'm talking team sponsors and sponsoring a crew of individual athletes rather than a team. Now we were promoting the team thing. The way we were initially talking with Spartan was it was going to be team based. There was going to be a draft and you were drafted to teams, but it was still going to be individuals that were going to be the stars of the show.
Right.
You don't get to know unless you're a diehard, you didn't get to know the postal team. No, there was Contador on one team and you had Lance Armstrong on another. You knew the stars anyway. Even in team racing, you didn't know who the people who are doing all the grunt work were. The people in the peloton were faceless, just entities. It's still the stars, which pushes any sport. And stars only become stars if people know that they're good.
Do you think that there could be like an agreement between the athletes to, even if they're not getting paid or something, it's like, we're going to do regional. We'll have like the Southwest residents, the Northwest residents, the Central residents, Northeast, Southeast, like someone just scores it under the radar just to see how it goes. I think that, that would just be something cool to keep track of throughout the race season and stuff. And maybe it could at least get some momentum going. Like, oh, the athletes actually liked it. That could be a simple
that sounds
thing.
Like a race brain Jack Bauer project right there.
Yeah. And
start scoring by region.
But
it's a great idea.
People to show up.
It's a great idea.
Probably could.
But it only benefits the people who already care about it. Race Brain is not introducing OCR to the masses. It's entertaining people who already care about OCR.
For sure.
And I think we may all have to collectively realize that the sport will grow with or without us. There are things we can do to help it, but we are not the savior of the sport. It's going to be to get other people to care about the sport. And if that means that we can't be on the commentary roles because they find better people to do it, then so be it.
Impossible.
If that means that some of our athletes get replaced because they bring in a new version and there are people better at it, then that's what happens. Now, I don't see that happening because I think the athletes that are in the sport are still going to make up the best version of any OCR outside of a few individuals you find, they come in like a Rylan. Those people exist out there, but it's not going to be, Race Brain won't save it.
Couple of years.
ORM's not going to save it. It's going to be some big entity.
When Race Brain becomes a big entity.
But when they come in and witness it for the first time, then they find Race Brain and they find ORM, and then that, builds their habit.
Props it up.
We can provide the habit, but someone's got to introduce it to them at the party first.
Yep.
We don't think it's going to be Savage, unfortunately. And we'll see how that series does kind of play out, but I'm not expecting. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the viewership would be on that. Like if people are going to watch more or less because OCR Report is a company that can introduce it to the masses. Do you think a company like them would be more capable of introducing it to the masses? The product's getting better and better, but it's still like the amount of reach that
Which product's getting better and better?
Their broadcasting product.
Do you ORMs?
No. OCR Report. I'm sorry.
Oh, OCR Report. Yes. However, they need help. And that will have to come either from outside professionals with equipment already or from money that will allow them to put on a bigger performance. They're doing the best they can with what they're being paid, or in some cases, not even being paid.
Right.
So yes, I believe, they can be the ones because they are capable of putting on a product that's very palatable if it's streaming based. If it is a post-production that you put out the Super League on Sunday, a week later, or whatever it's going to be, then they're probably not the ones right now because it's outside their area of expertise. And I do believe Savage can be a race or three on the stops of this Super League. I think you can have, because as a one-off or three-off product on it, it makes for a very compelling story. You've had all these runnable heavy carry courses. Now you're going to get to a place where the technicality matters and there are going to be holdups. Looking at auto racing, you get to places where crashes are unavoidable or places where you never get up to speed. The very first race of the season for NASCAR this year, I don't think they get above 70 miles per hour. But people tune in because they know it's not always going to be like this. It's a cool place for people to show different skill sets and strategies. And then next week, you're going to a super speedway. I think Savage has a definite place in the circuit because it's so different in what is needed.
All right. So let's do this. If you were, let's just say you're OCR Report or anybody that's looking to get bigger money to come in and push it out. Doesn't matter how, doesn't matter details of how you would do it, but there is a way that we could do it and we just need money to get there. How would you pitch this sport to a potential bankroll? Like, how would you get the money? Like, what would you say?
Jack, do you have a pitch?
It's tough, and it's something that like we've all sort of thought of throughout the years. I'm sure of it. I'd probably lean it on the lines of like it's accessible for anybody in a mass participation to get on the same start line as the best in the sport. And that's no different than, but you also, a lot of people, they kind of idolize these super fit humans, which you see in CrossFit. And we're kind of like a combination of the two of those. So you can kind of just have the best of both worlds there. It's super entertaining while you're racing, but yeah, it's going to be tough to sell. Like, oh yeah, look at how cool this thing is run up a mountain. Cause it's just not cool to watch in its current form. Honestly, don't really have a great pitch. You have one, Bracken?
Well, this isn't my job in life, so no, I probably don't have a great pitch. But I would pitch that at one point, this was the fastest growing new sport on earth. Mismanagement and COVID decimated the company's ability and willingness to spend money, but it also rejuvenated the fitness industry in general, and that people have realized how much their lives are better when they're out doing things, and people are looking for activities to do physically. And this sport is 1 ounce of leadership or financing away from being one of the most acceptable and palatable forms of getting out and getting just like primal exercise and competition done. And it's probably the most accessible sport that you can put out there in terms of I can watch an awesome, compelling, inspiring race and do the sport with almost no equipment mandatory. But there are many, many products we can sell to support being better at this. Everyone needs to fuel. Everyone needs shoes. Everyone needs home gear, or home gym. Everyone needs compression gear. Everyone needs hydration packs. Everyone needs all these things. So there's a lot of what you call ancillary products that you can sell for it, but none that are required like a bike to get into the sport. So anyone can go from watching it to competing it 1 day later if there's a race next door. They could all do it. And then there's this huge amount of expansion for obsession with it. There are trifectas that people go after. There are different medals that people want. And there's a ton of gear you can get into when you become obsessed. That would probably be my pitch.
I'm gonna let you handle the pitch part because that was good. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like the post-COVID world and moving away from everything virtual, like in-person experience is better for like mental health. Could be a point to like hit on. Like this is good to get back. You mentioned primal. That's another thing I think that could really be like honed in on, like because there has to be a reason why this is valuable. Right? Like we can't lose track of that where it's all become about like the sport or the funding or like whatever is happening with the actual obstacles and the people that are in here. Like there's a reason this was popular in the first place. And it just feels like we've kind of lost touch with that, you know, because I was saying the same thing. It's like, how would we pitch this? Like, how is this helpful other than fastest growing, right? It's like everybody can say that all the time, you know, and like it doesn't even seem like there's much basis on something like that.
Yeah.
But like, what is it?
You could pitch the corporate side as well, which is these corporations have mandatory company building that they have to do, team building. And now post-COVID, a lot of them have mandatory health related programs they have to pitch. Well, Spartan fills that role really easily. And in the communities in elementary and middle school, Spartan kids could be a very powerful get your kids moving and coordinated and outside their comfort zone. Basically a fun, accessible version of low and high ropes. Low and high ropes courses are what the go-to is for team building and things like that. But it's nowhere near as fun and only one person can go at a time. And it takes a whole slew of professionals to put the event on. This is the kind of thing that it really is cross-categorical if done correctly, but the lack of funding in the sport currently has killed off all of these advanced initiatives, which are how you guarantee people keep coming back in. So we're not rich enough to do it, but because we're not doing it, no one's coming back in. It's just like you're getting it on both sides and it sucks, but someone could be that person that invests in and causes that to happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other part, you know, is based a lot on what our show is trying to bring stars, you know, like showing people, like compelling individuals, which I think any sport can do. Is just a matter of highlighting it to a certain extent, which our sport seems to have not. That's like the first place that they divested from. It's like, okay, the individuals at the top, the stars that people care about, we don't think that that's valuable. But that could be there could be some kind of pitch for around like the actual individuals, because that's another way to influence culture, right? Influence the youth, the people that were the individuals at the top who we see and we aspire to be. But because we have some of those, you know.
Well, and I think we have more than most sports do, because we have a combination of our sport which has three things that not every sport does. The first is that we have fit, in shape, aesthetically pleasing athletes. Not every sport has that. And in this day and age of social media, having someone that you can put on a post shirtless and looks great means that you're instantly more palatable and are more likely to get views. And you don't have to outsource modeling outside of it. Right. You have fitness models in this industry who are also top performers. So I think that's huge for our sport to start with. And that's part of what originally it was. It was a lot of ripped jack dudes and attractive girls rolling around in the mud, and people are like, oh, I'd go do that. Yeah, it's like a singles mixer. The second thing that we have that a lot don't is we have normal people in this sport. And I know that's a sliding scale, but they all came from other walks of life and generally have jobs and interests outside of it. So they're really good on the mic usually. We interview a lot of the people in this sport, and there are very few people who are bad at speaking in our sport. So instantly marketable again. And then also we have enough of extremism in the sport that people are into wild, impressive things in their daily life. Like a Rylan, how do you not make some really cool documentaries or commercials based off what he's doing on his daily life? And we have people like that all throughout the sport. So I think we have extremely palatable and marketable athletes in our sport that you can make stars out of if you cared to. Now, star is relative. I don't think you're making them into a Messi, but you could make them into like a poor man's Rich Froning.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something
I do think there's another there's another pitch that I would also do. If you look at like other sports, I was looking it up, and the average fan in baseball is 57 years old. Like most OCR people, mid to late 30s or early 40s and stuff, you've got like 15, 20 years of captivating audience, like that they can just continue to buy your products and be fans of your sport, because we're a younger sport. Even the other ones like NFL, the average fan age is 46 watching TV. NASCAR is 58, tennis 61. So like you have a different demographic that you're appealing to here versus other ones, and people are in their higher earning years, like early 40s and stuff. That could be appealing to a sponsor as well.
And a thriving masters race scene to keep people in the sport longer.
Yeah, that's a good point.
True.
That's a good point.
That's a good question.
Thank you. What else on this? Anything else?
Well, in theory, what does the Super League look like?
So this would be, okay. So from what I'm understanding, you're talking about Super League is we're taking the different race companies and we're putting together whatever number of races throughout the season. Maybe there's some sort of point scale. It's team, it's individual, but we're wanting it to touch a couple of different bases. NASCAR, Bracken, the expert here. That's all kind of similar all the time, right? They just go to different places.
Yeah, but each track's different. So there's 2 mile tracks, 1.5 miles. There's a 1/4 mile track that opened up the year. They have road courses versus the tracks. They have some are ovals, some are triangular, some are actual just like road courses that go all around 8 mile
And NASCAR?
loops. Yeah.
And like the regular series?
Yeah.
Sounds just like
I didn't know any of this until last year.
Super B stadium. You know, we've got different formats.
And they play it up huge. This is the road course specialist. This guy is great on tight
Does it change the
turns.
results a lot?
100%. And then in the big long ones, teams matter, because when you get on the super speedways that are fast and long and there's plenty of space, you have to get into a line and your teams link up and you start working together until late in the race. And then it turns into it's like any other form of racing. Each course is totally different in strategy. And then they get into how they set the cars up. And there's regulations for, you can put in a different height spoiler on different size courses and things like that. And it's endless intricacies throughout the tracks. That kind of thing is what I'm envisioning in OCR, where you have mountain beasts and you have flat beasts and you have mountain supers and flat supers and mountain sprint and flat sprint. And then you throw in a couple, like 2 or 3 savage and maybe, I don't even know if they're going to be around, but Conquer the Gauntlet, or you have a Bone Frogs they announced they have one more race coming. Like, you help those by being in on the circuit, but it'd still probably be like more than 50% Spartan races because they have the best venues.
The other thing about like mentioning those specific races and like showing up at Bracken, you probably noticed this a lot in the early years. Whenever a race has like that title of it, it's like part of a series, people just want to be there, as whether or not you're racing in like the elite or the pro heat. And that can't be bad, you know, for all these other companies. It's like, you're part of the series or the league. People will show up to Bone Frog, for instance, who definitely were not planning on it, simply because you have the athletes showing there, because it's a series race or a league event.
I've run Killington 4 times. 1 year did I not struggle to find housing. It was the year it wasn't a world championship.
Yeah.
It just brings in people. That's what it does. You're right. Absolutely. It builds a reason to be at a race. I got to go. These people are going to go to a race either way, the diehards. So give them a reason to go to one or the other, and they're going to travel. They're looking for reasons to spend their money. And we're seeing it with the athletes we're coaching right now. They're looking for something. They've pulled back on OCR, and they're looking for something to get into. They have money to spend, most of these people. We're like one subset lower than triathlon with who our clientele is. They want to spend their money. They just need a reason to go try it.
So maybe this will be a good episode for next week, honestly, like what a series would look like. And we could each kind of bring some different examples of how we'd want that to look based off of the previous or what else is out there, right? Like off of the NASCARs and even like cross country, I guess we could say. So why don't we make that a full episode?
Let's do it. Good.
Build out the Super League or whatever we'd call it.
Let's come up with a name.
Yeah.
I like it. Looks like Carl's talking to him. Is Carl talking to you?
Yeah, we got a guest puppy here too. So Carl had to come say hi to everybody.
All right. Oh, Carl. Is this Carl's first appearance on camera?
It might be.
Yeah.
But he doesn't mind. So we're doing Super League next week to figure out what that would look like for us. I think that would be fun. Try to get a guest involved too. What do we think?
Yeah.
And then we'll make that a competition somehow.
Anybody
we'll arbitrarily put at the end.
Yeah. Now, this might not be the episode for it, but a Steve or a Garfield or someone like that could be an interesting person to have on.
Are they just not going to be biased though?
Well, as I said, this might not be the time for it.
Right. Is there someone who has come out of
an ex-director?
I work with someone
Chris
who
Accord,
was,
someone like that.
I want to say CFO, if not CFO, worked chief of something in finances with Spartan and no longer is.
C-class.
I don't know if this is the right episode for him, but was in on every big meeting for like 3 years at Spartan. That might be a different episode, which would be fascinating of the inner workings.
Yeah, that might be that sounds more like a ORM, or that could be a running public
interview. Yeah,
it seems more interview-ish. But cool. All right, so we'll do that next week. And what do we got on running public? What are you doing without Kirk?
I just got my tears dried before this started. So
are you taking a vacay too?
No, I'm putting it out. We decided that we're going to start when someone has a vacation, that the other person just holds it down and puts out what we put out and get people used to one of the parents not being in the house.
Yeah. Okay. Did you have an interview or did you do?
We had Chad Trammell.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah.
Did you know? I forgot about this. Did you know he was a runner-up at Leadville?
Second place, Leadville, 2019, maybe 18.
Oh, recently.
Yeah.
Jeez, I had no idea.
Is there anyone less appreciated for how good he is than Chad Trammell? Can you imagine taking second at Leadville and no one knowing it?
Well, he's like he's not really in our world anymore.
Yeah, no one knew him even when he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got like 6th, 8th, like
Alaska.
Really good at Tahoe.
5th, 7th, and 8th, I think, at World Championships at Tahoe.
Yeah, that's it.
Bracken, did you ever? How did you compare it to him? Would you give him the business?
I gave him the business in shorter courses, and he gave me the business in longer courses.
Like you do for most people in shorter courses.
Yeah, I want to say the longest I beat him at was probably an hour.
Okay. Yeah, considering he's an ultra guy, second at Leadville. You guys are very opposite end of the spectrum.
He's also a sub 15 guy.
Is it?
Yeah. In fact, it's funny. I know you won't listen, so I'll tell you the story. In college, he ran because he ran at Pepperdine.
Oh, cool.
They don't have a track program, just cross country. So he was 24 something in cross, but he ran one indoor 5K, one college 5K, I believe. He went through, I want to say he came through in, Jack, was it 9:12, 9:18 through the 2 mile and ran 14:59?
Oh no, that's tough.
That's
maybe 9:26. It was sub 9:30 through the 2 mile. and ran 14:59.
Oh my God. What's that math real quick for everybody, Jack? Can you do that for that last mile?
That's like he basically averaged like say 4:30 to 4:40 and then closed in 5:30. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's
That's
slowing down
tough.
20% at the end.
He
Not
said
good.
he got in a fast heat and was the slowest guy in it and just went out with the pack and just hung on last place of the pack through 2 miles and then just tried not to die and came through and snuck in at 14:59.
He broke
He also
15,
said
so he
last year or this year, one of the two, he was part of the crew that paced Lars Arneson in a 5K time trial, and Lars won 14:59.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how Lars is in this, right?
Chad got him in, but the fact I didn't know Lars was like that fast.
he's got wheels.
Oh yeah, at the beginning of last year. He's like before slow. That's when that was. That was just recently.
He said Lars gives him the business in everything they do. He said he's a better climber, he has better endurance, and his top end's better. He said he's scary. If this guy had found the sport when we were still doing Tahoe and those kind of things, he said his top end is outrageous to go along with his rim to rim to rim nonsense.
Do we just not see Lars ever again? Is there just nothing for him to do now? Is he just back in the mountains doing ultra stuff in Alaska?
Probably. And yet at the same time, if he's a sub 420 guy and he's strong, maybe he's great at the 3K too.
Yeah, but
no interest probably.
He's going to be interested to travel to Florida. You know, I doubt it.
I think it's $1,000 to travel anywhere from Anchorage.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, second at Leadville.
Did Chad mention that? Did Chad mention he was considering doing Big Bear last year?
Mm-hmm. And he said he was planning on coming back and doing a few races this year with Lars before the season changed.
Shoot.
Yeah.
We actually had
he messaged me that
coming
and I was
back
like,
in.
oh.
And do you know what he wore for Leadville 100?
On his feet? Let me guess.
Close.
It's going to be like New Balance Minimus or something.
Reebok All-Terrain.
I mean, basically, Innovate X-Talon 225.
For 100. Jeez.
For 100?
Yeah. He said, I had a shoe change. I put a shoe in my drop bag, but I put the same shoe. I should have put a bigger shoe. So he got to change out shoes, but he didn't get to get out of the X-Talons.
All right. I got nothing on reinforced running this week. Maybe something later on. Just Dubai was a lot. I'm really sleepy. I was really sleepy a lot.
Got to catch up on sleep.
Yeah.
Yep.
What was your protocol, Bracken? You've gone that far twice.
I get rocked coming home. I got sick both times I came home. I was a mess for like 48 hours. And then within a week I was caught up and good.
Okay.
I had no protocol. I'm bad at coming back.
I think I finally got by the end of the week in Dubai, because we were there for about 8 days. Is when I adjusted my sleep. I was like all the way through the night in an appropriate time by the last day.
Just in time to come home.
And 26 hours of travel yesterday.
27.
It was like 48.
Why so much?
We had like a 7-hour.
7 hours in Frankfurt.
Funk.
Yeah.
We
left at 1:50 a.m. on Monday.
That's pretty standard. Coming back, you're between 11 and 2 generally. Coming back this way.
Airport was mobbed.
It's terrible.
And so that ended up being like kind of like 48 hours without really any sleep. We had a hard time. We almost missed it.
Not good.
We almost missed our flight, but we had our teammates had our back, let us cut in line. Little front seat, back seat.
Macaulay and I, when we went over, flew because he was in Denver and I was in Milwaukee, so we flew over separately, obviously. And on the way back, he's like, "What time do you need to be at the airport?" I'm like midnight. He's like, "I think I'm 1, so let's just go together." And on the way there, he's like, "I'm Delta." I'm like, "I'm Delta." He's like, "I'll double check." He's like, "No, I'm midnight too. We were on the same flight home."
Oh, nice.
So that helped to get into the airport. I promptly left my laptop at security.
Nice. Did you get it back?
Car.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it back. Well, you guys better catch up on some sleep. Okay, last question for you guys then. If you had to go over there for, let's say, Spartan World Championships this year,
Yeah.
feeling what you felt, when would you go over?
Physically, I actually was fine. We did
That's fine.
We did a little shakeout run the day after we got there, like 70 minutes or so, and then the following day we did like some threshold intervals, and they went like pretty good. So Tuesday.
I think for something short, it doesn't matter. I think the beast
Over
I went
3K.
to, I cracked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you felt it like it was something
Terrible.
abnormal?
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I would think, yeah, 5 to 6 nights, I think is appropriate.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, now I think earlier is better.
I would say
if it's big
same
and it
idea. Like,
matters.
Rich, we got there like Monday night, so basically Tuesday essentially, and yeah, I had raced on Thursday and been fine at that point. It's just getting your body clock right, but I think since they have an afternoon race, it's not as bad for people come from the US. But yeah, I'd say minimum 48 hours on the ground beforehand, which probably translates to 72, a full day of travel you need to buy in there. So leave at least 3 days before.
Macaulay's first time over there, he got in at 5 or 6 a.m. and raced at 9 a.m.
What?
Not
Yep.
a good
How'd
plan.
that go?
He missed a spear and took second.
Oh, so not bad.
It was old days though. Halvard won.
I met him.
Did you guys meet
He's a good
Halvard?
guy. Yeah, sat with him during the finals. He's an interesting guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
right,
and
boys.
he said if there's that. Yep, I was just gonna give him a shout out, and Gabe Heck from Thailand. The two of them said that if there are ever international downloads from those countries, it's them.
That's
So,
who it is.
Shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
Nice. I met Gabe. Good dude. Tall, probably the tallest athlete. He's Philippines, right?
Thailand right now.
Thailand.
Wisconsin. He ran for Robert Johnson at Cornell, so he's got some Let's Run stories and stuff. So it'd be a good interview.
Ooh.
Would he have been there when Max King was there?
Yeah.
He's probably close to our age, right?
He's probably about our age. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's definitely younger than Max King, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Anyway, we'll try to wrap this up for like 8 minutes in a row. So let's close it out.
All right. See you, squad.